Hello everyone, thanks for joining our session. As you know, I'm Yavor. Today we'll talk about Fiori 3, but first let's see why Fiori 3 is so important. Over the years, SAP has acquired a number of best-of-breed solutions like Qualtrics, Ariba, SuccessFactors, and many more. This process was imperative to maintain our position as marketing leader in software business and to become a leader in the cloud business. As this transition is fully underway, now it's time to focus on making the user experience consistent, because experience matters. The biggest challenge with the acquisitions is that each one brings their own technology stack and respectively UI and UX. Here you could see different products, SAP products. Some are acquisitions, they use different technologies and they have different perception of UI. To improve that, Fiori 3 is here to help us. If you recently heard about Fiori 3, you might wonder what happened to Fiori 1 and Fiori 2. Actually, there has never been Fiori 1. It was just SAP Fiori. And it was a pragmatic way to start solving a very big problem. The initial Fiori applications focused on mobile-first scenarios, and they proved to be very successful. The aim of Fiori 2 was to apply that Fiori design over the core ERP scenarios. Now, we're moving to the next stage. Fiori 3 is the design system for all SAP products across the intelligent enterprise. As you could see here, these are the key pillars, 3 pillars of the Fiori 3 design. As we cover the consistency, let's take a look at the other 2. Traditionally, the word integration means data integration, process orchestration, or single sign-on. But today's users deserve and expect more. Our customers shouldn't care if it's SuccessFactors, Ariba, Concur, or any other SAP product to get their work done. Here you could see a real use case with Fiori 3 applications where the user goes seamlessly through several products to get their work done. Fiori 3 make enterprise software more productive by leveraging the machine intelligence. By providing relevant information in a sequence that is understandable, users could focus on their work. Here we have a Fiori 3 application. At the top, there are some key metrics. If these metrics are relevant to the user, she could focus on investigating the root cause of the problem, what's the impact, and even could take some actions based on the machine learning recommendations. And this one here is a new Fiori 3 design concept. It's called the Fiori 3 Central Hall. Probably you already seen this in the keynote. Behind it, there are the qualities, all the qualities behind the Fiori 3 design. And although the design system spans multiple technologies, platforms, and interaction models, it's important to remember that everything behind Fiori 3 follows the same practices, principles, and value. And okay, we have Fiori 3, but we're developers. How could we take advantage of all these great design patterns in our work? Probably many of you already know the answer. UI5 is the technology of choice for all enterprise-ready products. When Fiori 3 came to the stage, we at the UI5 teams gathered and identified the main building blocks behind it. And this is the result. This is the Fiori 3 Phase 1 roadmap. As you can see, we committed and we delivered. With Fiori 3, with UI5 version 165, we made it available for you, a brand new Fiori 3 theme, the new cards and layouts we'll see a bit later for them. A new control, the shell header bar, and of course, the cutting-edge UI5 Web Components. But there's more yet to come, so stay tuned. The new UI5 theme is called SAP Quartz Lite. It has sleek and clean design and is aligned with the latest and new UX consistency metrics. And the greatest part is backward compatible. So if you have already implemented UI5 version 165 on your system, the only thing left to do is just to enable it by switching theme name. The theme name, the technical theme name is called SAP Fiori 3. Along with the Fiori 3 theme, there's a new control. It's called the shell header bar. It would enable all your applications to have consistent heading and navigation. And the greatest part, it's available as classic UI5 control, as well as UI5 Web Component. Marty will tell you more about this a bit later. Now, please welcome Gary on stage. She will tell us more about the UI5 cards.
Thank you, Ivanov. Okay, so I'm Gary, that's Yavor, so no confusion there. Now, I told you on the keynote about the UI5 integration cards, but for you to know what actually a card is, I mentioned it, but a card is a representation of an application. It's specific to a task a user needs to do. Here is a small note. If you want to make a card, the card shouldn't be the exact, you shouldn't put all the functionality in one card. If you want different functionalities, like if you want 3 functionalities, make 3 cards. A card is just for a specific task, so the user can use it in the most best way to say. Right here on the screen, the top card, you see, it's a representation of, let's say, a success factors card. A user can see the courses he or she wants to take, and from clicking on the first list item, they can navigate to their training without having to go through 5 different applications. And that is actually the point behind the integration part of the Fiori 3 design. From one central home without navigating to 5 different applications just to reach your one training, your one purchase order, or whatever, you go there. And also on the bottom, I have created a card for, let's say, Ariba with purchase orders that can be approved. Also, for the cards, you need to know that they have a card anatomy, as we say. A card consists of a card container, which actually is just a container with rounded corners. The cool part is the card header, which is the first main part of a card, and the second main part is the content. The card content is the part where you describe your most important information, and also we have different kinds of predefined cards that we provided for you. And these predefined cards are the integration cards of type list, of type object, of type table. A component card is a little bit different from the other cards. With this one, we provide for you the way to make a freestyle card if you wish. If one of the predefined ones that we have provided for you doesn't do the job, use the component card and achieve the design that you want. But keep in mind that this one may not be Fiori 3 compliant because you're responsible of the design. And also, we have an analytical card, which is underneath this chart, and you can show any kind of analytical data. And also, we have a timeline card with a timeline content. But as you may see, there's a little bit of information about them. They're only available with SAP UI5, the analytical and the timeline cards. So be sure to have that loaded when you're trying out these 2 types of cards. And also, we have the UI5 card control. So we get any confusion out of the way. I'll show you the differences between these 2 cards and what use cases are best for them. So, the integration card. As I mentioned in the keynote, it's a new thing to UI5. It's a new concept, actually. The integration card is only described by one manifest, and all the information needed in the card is inside that manifest. That means that the card is self-contained. Everything you need for a card is inside that manifest, so you don't have to worry about anything else. Also, inside the manifest, you have all the needed requests. You require your data, you bind your data, everything is done out of the box. Also, the behavior, the actions that you can do inside the card are also in that manifest. So everything you need is just one simple manifest JSON. And as far for the SAP F card, well, it's the standard programming UI5 model you know and love. You have to configure everything, and actually, to achieve the integration card, to achieve the SAP F card to look like an integration card, you have to take care of everything, just to be compliant with the Fiori 3 guidelines. So the integration card is better for you if you want something to be out of the box and just write a manifest. And if you have a pre-styled UI5 application, use the card control. And now, I showed you in the keynote, but the Card Explorer is the special ground that you can find the integration card. And now I'm going to show you the Card Explorer in depth. So, as I said to you, it's in the two sections in the demo kit, if anybody's interested to check it out. And now, let's go to the demo kit and show you how you can find it. Tools, Card Explorer, and that's it. I showed you this part in the keynote, so let's go to the Card Explorer and check it out in more depth. The Learn section has an overview. Also, it has a Getting Started, which is really important for you to read if you want to go if you want to develop cards. Here is the most needed information about defining a manifest and what should be the content of that manifest. We have the integration card headers. As I said, we have a header part of the card, and it can have two types of headers. A default header, which is a standard one with an avatar, a title, a subtitle, and maybe some status. And the numeric one is it can carry some KPI data for some data source. And you can hook up one data source to the header and another one to the integration card, but you'll see that later. And now also we have documentation about the integration card types, which are actually the card content. In the list card content, we have an example for how manifest can look, and for all the other types we also have documentation, and we also have described in the Learn part all the integration card features. Okay, so the Explore part, you've seen it, but let's see it up close. Let's check out the table card, since you see the list card in the keynote. As you can see, all the data that we pass to the card is actually a JSON, a static one. So I want to show you, let's see, I think this example, no, not this one. This one, if you have some data, this data can be some simple request to some REST API or all data request or whatever you want, or to a static JSON file, it doesn't matter. For the example here, as you can see, we also support the option that you pass the content to the data that you pass. You can provide a relative path inside that data, so you actually can dig down in the data you receive and show only the things you want without additional bindings and stuff like that. So let's go to the actions first, and I want to show you some of the features. for the features of the integration card, we have implemented actions. For now, for the actions, we support only navigation. Since this is the first phase of the integration cards, and there's yet more yet to come, the navigation action is an action when you click on some of the items, you navigate to your destination that you pointed in the manifest. And how does that look? Over here, we have a header, a title of the header, and an action section in the manifest. The action has a type, which is a type navigation, and it has parameters. These parameters are right now, in our use case, is the URL that we want to navigate after clicking on the header. And also, we have actions on the items, which, as you can see here, some of the items are actionable and some are not. That the user can notice that by changing the chevron or the mouse cursor. When we have navigation, it's a pointer hand, and it's a simple pointer then. Actually, the user can configure that also. When we have an item with icon, title, and description, we pass the actions to each significant item. We pass the action type navigation. From the enabled part, the list knows if a certain action is enabled. If it finds a URL inside the binded objects, like this one here, that means that the action is enabled. And also, we have parameters with the URL with the destination. Okay, this was one of the features of the integration card. We have an action. Now, let's see what else we have. We have a data that is requested via URL. This is just the example that we don't only work with static data, believe us. And also, we have translation. The cool thing in the integration card is that we are compliant with all the SAP standards, and we also support translation. And in the integration card, you can actually pass your E18 and properties file and add translation directly in the card. Since it's self-contained, we don't want to restrict you to only have static information in there. You can pass anything you want, and you can even translate it. Okay, we also have a dynamic counter that is actually the information. Let's say you have around 100 responses from your request, and you want to only visualize 2. How you can do that in the card is by giving a formatter. First, you give max items to the content. I want to see only two items. I set it to max items 2. Okay, and now also the counter can be dynamic. What that means is that you only use the status text, pass a formatter to it. You also have a translation to the word off. If it's in German, it will be von, and so on. And the next part of the formatter are the parts. This one is predefined, and also always should be parameters visible. This means that even if you say, I want to see 3 max items, but the response return only 2, you see 2 items and not a blank item over here. And this will be accordingly changed. If there's only one item will be here. That's why it's dynamic counter. And the parameters example is not working, of course, for a demonstration. So I'm going to explain to you what this functionality is. Again, the card is self-contained. You can't actually force any information into it. And let's say we have a user, and that user has some ID, and if you want to change the information based on the user ID and you have a request, you want to reuse that card for every user, right? So this user, when opens his or her home page, wants to see their leave request in an orderly manner. The person who is developing the card has to pass the user ID to the card, and that could happen from the outside through the parameters. You only need to add the configuration part in the SAP card section, add parameters, since in the future there can be other configuration. And right now, this is an example with a third-party API, and it's not working for some weather app. And we're passing the city London. But if you want to change it from the outside, you set a parameter to the card, and let's say we set it to Roth or Waldorf, and this will be changed from the outside of the card. So that's the way you control the card from the outside. And you can pass different information through the parameters, and it will be rendered inside the card. It's not necessary for only for the requests. It can be done also in the descriptions. Okay, we have the cards, and Yavor showed you the central home design, and also Stefan showed you on the keynote. But to achieve this central home, you need one more thing. You need some layouts, and for you to achieve the central home, we have delivered the CSS grid, which is a display grid CSS property-based control. We just wrap the CSS grid in the UI5 control. We have the grid list, which underneath is again the display grid, and also we have, and it extends the SAP M list before I forget, and it comes with all the cool features that the SAP M list has. And the most important thing on this slide is the grid container. The grid container is especially created for cards. It's again display grid underneath. It has a polyfill for EA11, which we know it's important to support all browsers. And for now, it's experimental, just to note, but in the future, so if you use it, just keep in mind, some APIs may change. And if you're using the cards, put it in a grid container, and you achieve this cool look and feel on your site. So that's for the integration cards for now. It was a really quick introduction to them, since it's a really big topic. And I have a dedicated session later today. If you're interested, please come and join. And now I'm going to pass to Martin to show you a little bit more about the web components. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Hi, everyone. I'm Martin. I'm working on the web components project for the last year and a half, and 5 years in the UI5 department. Talking about integration, of our acquisition and this whole story, we at SAP acquire a lot of companies, and all of them, almost all of them, are coming with their own stack, UI stack, their own platforms. So for them to re-implement all of their systems in UI5 would be quite expensive. So we had to come with a solution for this. So we thought about this. In the beginning, we did some internal project, but what is the most common thing between all the frameworks and all of the rendering techniques out there? No matter if you're using JSP or Angular or React or UI5, in the end, you have a DOM in your browser. You have HTML elements which are rendered in your browser. So the most common thing there is the HTML, right? So that's why we decided to go for the web components. And as Peter said in the keynote, we are having a release candidate today, released early this morning. So feel free to try it out. How many of you know what are the web components in general? Okay, should I walk away or? Okay, I will quickly explain you. So, I guess all of you are familiar with this HTML. It just renders a heading, a button, and a list with some items. In some browsers, this will probably look like this. At least in Chrome, it looks like this. In Firefox, it might differ, but yeah, depends on the browser. So these are the default styles for this HTML. So imagine the same HTML. So what are the okay, we all know what is HTML. So what are the web components at all? Web components are actually a standard in your browser, which let you define custom tags. By custom tags, I mean you can define your own HTML tag and use it in your page. It can encapsulate HTML, CSS, also some behavior, some JavaScript. So it's similar to what we have in OpenUI5 as controls, but it is native for the browser. By native, it's like really native. You can do it in your console of your browser. You can change dynamically stuff in your inspector. You can do it anywhere where the HTML is a known language. They're easy to consume, and they have really tiny size. For example, our web components, for a single component, together with the whole framework, you get 10, 12 kilobytes of code, which is really small. So imagine you have this web component, what we have built internally, the UI5 button, and you get this a nicely styled button on your page. Of course, it's not just visualizing, because you can do this with some CSS. You are also getting event handling, you are getting keyboard handling, you have focus handling, and so on, all the features you deserve. Okay, wrong button. So let's go back to this snippet. We all know what this will render, but you can write this as this. It's the same, right? We go back, this, and this. You again render a title, a button, and a list. But in the end, what you get in your browser is much different from each other. As you can see, using the web components, you get the styling, the look and feel, and the desired behavior for a Fiori 3 application. So on top of the styling, as I said, Fiori 3 is not just styling, it's also behavior. There are standards, and so on and so on. We are covering currently in the UI5 Web Components, we are covering 3 themes: the Fiori 3 theme, which is the default for us, the high contrast black theme, and the Belize theme, which is the Fiori 2.0 theme. Of course, we have accessibility implemented in our components, so you can use keyboard handling or screen readers, and they are accessible. We also have different languages supported in our components. For example, we have more than 30 languages, somewhere more than 40. And you can see an example of our date picker, which Johan actually showed you in the keynote, that the months are in German. I don't know German, but I guess. So what is the best place where you can get started with all these web components is our playground. I will quickly jump through it, as I'm not sure how much time we have. Okay, so this is our playground, our landing page. If you want to just take a look, you can try out this date picker here. This is the code that maybe like this is better, that is needed for it. And of course, you can play around using Code Sandbox with some examples and stuff. But let's go to the whole sections. We have a lot of components. Johan told you that we have around 30, but there are like more than 50 together with the internal ones. So we do a lot. We have some simple components like the batch, which is really minimalistic, but it covers a lot of the needs for the Fiori 3 design. We have a busy indicator, a button, and it's quite easy to consume these components. As you can see, you can just define a property, for example, design property, give a value, and you get the desired styling. For the disabled button, you can see that it is not clickable. Okay, even the focus handling is not going on it, so also accessibility is implemented. We have, of course, some Boolean property like disabled, icon end, and so on. We have more complex controls like the multi-combo box, which is similar to what multi-combo box we have in the UI5. You have a big list of options. You can choose between them, choose multiple options, play around, delete, and you're getting like the same experience that you're getting in UI5. And all the markup you need to do for this is just a few lines of HTML. It's super simple to consume, and yeah, you can do it wherever you want, if the device supports an HTML. Also, to contribute to the Fiori 3 story, we thought that we should also do something. So we have this card component, which is similar to what Gary showed, but it is more like the SAP F card. It's completely freestyle. We have some examples how you can achieve list card or table card or something like this. It's working with pure HTML. We don't have manifests yet. And yeah, we have an example for timeline card and stuff. And of course, in order to unify your headings for your SAP application, you need to do this show bar. It's like a must. So you can use super easy our show bar header with a few lines of code. This is quite feature rich, so it has bigger HTML. For example, you can switch between applications. You have this profile menu here. So, but in the end, it's again super simple to use them. Let's go back to the presentation. So, yeah, to sum up, for the Fiori story, we contribute with all of our controls as they are styled as Fiori, and with cards and shell bar. Fiori 3 is our default theme since a long time, but it's currently our default theme. So yeah, Johan showed you that we have also this Fiori 3 application. I'm not really sure if I have time to show it again, but it's like it implements the latest Fiori 3 guidelines, and we are about to open source it soon. It's built completely with UI5 Web Components and Fiori for React. So stay tuned. We will open source it soon. If you are really interested in building Fiori 3 applications with UI5 Web Components, we also have a dedicated session later today, a hands-on. We will be building this nice application, exactly this, on the hands-on. So feel free to come and visit us. And we have a few sessions later today. So if you have any questions after, you can meet us there. And thank you.
Now is the time for questions. We also have dedicated sessions about the web components and integration cards, but if you have any questions, we can answer them also now. Keep in mind that this was a really sum up of the web components and the integration cards. On the dedicated session, we'll go in technical detail, so I guess you have a lot of questions, but feel free to start now and ask.
Okay, any questions? Anyone that's not shy?
Okay.
Okay, so thank you very much
Coffee
for
break.
the attention and coffee break.
Yeah.